Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have the Hunting Cave painting. This painting comes to us from an astonishing 44,000 years ago and was found on the wall of a cave on an Indonesian island. Researchers were able to date this painting that far back due to the fact that the cave it was found in is still a living cave, which means that rock formations have been growing over the painting, and by being able to date those, they know it is at least 43,900 years old, but it could potentially be even older. The painting features what looks like a hunting scene with 4 wild pigs, some small buffalo, and a group of really small hunters with spears. The strange thing about these hunters, other than their size, is the fact that they're all human and animal hybrids. They all have elongated faces like an animal's snout, and a lot of them have tails. There is even one tiny human thing that has a beak. We don't really know why they depicted the hunters this way or why the animals are so much larger than them. There also were no other usual signs of human life found in the cave, such as bones or hunting tools, so this cave may have acted as some sort of special or sacred spot for them, and while it definitely holds a lot of secrets, we may never get the chance to know most of them.
Coming in at number 9 is the eBay Haunted painting. Great name, I know. The actual name of this painting is The Hands Resist Him, and it was painted by Bill Stoneham in 1972. The painting itself is a bit haunting, with the doll girl and the hands coming out of the mirror, and why does this little kid look like an angry 40-year-old? No one knows. Anyway, in Feb of 2000, the painting was dubbed the eBay Haunted painting because many previous owners of the painting said it was either haunted or cursed. They described instances where the characters in the paintings would move at night, so much so they'd actually leave the frame altogether. Bill, the artist of the painting himself, even said the owner of the gallery in which the painting was first displayed and the first art critic who reviewed the painting both died within a year after looking at the painting. I mean, I think if anything we should be interrogating Bill and asking him why he put so much bad juju into the painting that it ended up being cursed. Why, Bill, why? At number 8 we have Man Proposes, God Disposes. This painting was done by Edwin Landseer back in 1864 and it does not depict man proposing or God disposing despite the title. The painting, which is housed in the Royal Holloway at the University of London, depicts the Franklin expedition shipwreck and the crew being ravaged by a bunch of polar bears. The painting began gaining a reputation of being cursed in the 70s. During that time, a student committed suicide and left an incomplete exam paper behind as a suicide note, which had inside of it, "The polar bear made me do it," as in the polar bears from the painting. Other students started reporting going mad after looking at the painting or failing their exams, which, I mean, if they were using that as an excuse just for simply failing, they should have really used a better one, in my opinion. But there were so many complaints and stories that the university started covering the painting in 1984 so no one could view it while sitting their exams. Even these days, students still refuse to sit near it during exams because of the bad luck that it brings. I'm really surprised they even had paintings that nice. All I had in my exam hall were giant clocks and those really annoying ass exam invigilators who just walked like Filling our number 7 slot is The Rain Woman. The painting was done by Ukrainian artist Svetlana Telets, who said the piece took her a total of 5 hours to make, which I feel is like a record time for an artist. She'd never completed a painting that fast, but felt like her hand was being guided by someone else the entire time. The painting itself kind of looks like a creepy, narrow caricature of the woman and the woman in black, and after she finished painting it, it was sold numerous times, but the owners kept returning it almost immediately because they all reported feelings of fear, insomnia, unexplained sadness, anxiety, and the feeling that they were being watched all the time if they were near the painting. I mean, if you're an artist and you finish a great painting in 5 hours and you claim your hand wasn't even moving itself, the likelihood of that painting ending up screwed up is high, which is why I'm not surprised it screwed with every owner that it had. Now at number 6 is The Dead Mother. I love how melancholy yet straight to the point these titles are. Many of you will know the Scream painting, but it was Edward Monk's Dead Mother painting that really got people's attention. The disturbing picture depicts a little girl standing with her hands on her ears in front of her mother's dead body. The painting has been displayed at countless art exhibitions around the world, and many have claimed the girl's eyes incessantly follow them and that the child moves, blinks, and sometimes leaves the painting entirely. Others have even said they've heard the bed sheets of the mother's bed rustling and seen the mother switch positions. I mean, I don't know how much I believe in a painting moving to that degree, but the masses have spoken. Coming in at number 5 is the portrait of Bernardo de Galvez. Bernardo was a Spanish military leader who helped the American colonies during the Revolutionary War. During the early 1900s, the city of Galveston opened the Galvez Hotel to honor him, and they commissioned a giant portrait of him to go in the lobby. Soon after the Galvez Hotel opened its doors, guests started complaining the painting would make them feel extremely cold and that his eyes were following them. See, always eyes, I told you, it's with every painting, they just follow you. The hotel started getting a reputation due to the cursed painting, and guests used to come and take pictures with the portrait. That's half the reason they even went. But all of their photos would come out blurry or with a weird mist over it. They were just never in focus no matter how still you held the camera or how much you cleaned your lens. One guest, however, actually asked the portrait if they could take a photo, and that was the first one that ever came out clear. Many believe the ghost of Bernardo haunts his painting, and it seems pretty legit to me. I mean, this story has pros and cons. Cons, that painting is haunted by a ghost, and ghosts are never good, and pros, at least he's a well-mannered ghost. At number 4 is Love Letters. This one involves kids, and I feel like whenever it's something scary, kids just make it 100 times worse. But anyway, the Driscoll Hotel in Texas is a popular place for paranormal tourists around the world, and a lot of why they visit is to do with this painting. In 1887, the US Senator was staying at the hotel with his 4-year-old daughter Samantha Houston. While chasing a ball, she fell down the stairs and to her death, and the painting in the hotel doesn't depict her, but it depicts a girl that looks a lot like her. Many believe Samantha's spirit cursed the painting, and some people have reported feeling nauseous and dizzy after looking at the painting, and others felt like they were being lifted into the air in front of it. Some even claim the girl is trying to talk to them, and that if you look at her long enough, her expression starts changing. Guests have also seen a little girl playing with a ball throughout the hotel. I don't need to add 2 and 2 together for you guys, that's pretty self-explanatory and it's pretty backed up. Filling our number 3 slot is the Untitled Painting. Zdzisław Beksiński was a Polish painter who liked painting in the style of dystopian surrealism. His paintings were mostly gothic or baroque, and he never gave any of them a title. Honestly, his paintings look like hallucinations from hell or something you'd see while lucid dreaming, but they're incredible. Weirdly enough, he burned many of his paintings in his backyard before even showing them to anyone. Beksiński's life was full of tragedy. His wife died in 1998, and a year later on Christmas Eve, his son committed suicide and he found his body. Then in 2005, he was found murdered in his apartment with 17 stab wounds because he refused to give $100 to Robert Kupek, the son of his longtime caretaker. So the man really had a troubled life till the end, and many believe if you look at his paintings for too long, you'll face your own death soon after that. Also, can we just congratulate me for actually saying his name correctly? Polish subscribers, did I say his name correctly or not? Please support me. Now at number 2 is the Stagecoach Painting. Now that's not its official name, but we're just gonna roll with it here. Back in 1994, a photographer took some double exposed pictures of stagecoaches in Tombstone, Arizona. When the picture finally developed, he saw a headless man standing on a log next to the wagons that was 100% not there when he took the picture in real life. That photo ended up getting displayed all over town, and then an artist called Laura decided to recreate it as an oil painting. It was already horrific once, why do we need 2 horrific things? Why? Why can't we have nice things? Either way, many believe the ghost of the man in the photo attached himself to Laura's version and started cursing it or haunting it. The first office space it was sold to quickly gave her back the painting, claiming despite straightening it every day, every morning the painting would just be crooked. They wanted to say their business had declined because appointments and papers were going missing and going awry. Blaming a painting for your business failure? A bit of a cop-out really. Laura decided to just display it in her own house, but after she did, her garage roof started leaking despite workers finding no source for the leak whatsoever. When the painting was moved out of the garage, the leak stopped, but inside the house things started breaking and going missing. Now, I'm not saying it was the headless man in the photo, but I'm not saying that. And finally, at number 1 is The Crying Boy. This one was painted by Giovanni Bragolin at the end of World War II when he started painting portraits of Italian orphans crying. The prints in his collection became very popular in England, but by the 80s things took a really grim turn. Many portrait owners began reporting that they thought their prints were cursed. Popular UK newspaper The Sun reported that in over 50 house fires, the only thing left unscathed in every house were the Crying Boy prints. In In one of the fires, the firefighters actually found a print face down on the floor, still in its frame, completely untouched by the fire that destroyed the rest of the house. A variety of psychics claim the curses from all the hopelessness and misery the orphans felt that they continue to haunt the paintings even after they died. And honestly, I believe that. That seems like a pretty viable explanation. How else would they survive so many fires? I don't understand. I mean, if your frame is wooden, shouldn't that burn? I don't know. I have questions.
Coming in at number 10, we have Scream by Edvard Munch. Painted in 1893, it's one of the most recognizable images to this day. Scholars have spent over 100 years debating who or what the screamer is, but Edvard himself said it was simply a scream he felt passing through nature. Either way, words aren't really needed to explain the horror in this figure's face, something every human can relate to. Perhaps that's why it has entered pop culture over the years and been parodied time and time again.
In our number 9 spot today, we have lizard hands. In 2002, in a cave discovered in the western deserts of Egypt, researchers found tons of paintings on the walls thought to be dated back at least 8,000 years, if not even longer. The paintings feature animals, humans, and sometimes headless creatures, which led to the cave being nicknamed the Cave of the Beasts. But there are also hundreds of handprints outlined, which are both very cool and very eerie. The most unusual of the handprints, however, are the 13 that are extremely tiny. This would be endearing and very cute, but what was once thought of as tiny little baby hands are actually not even human at all. An anthropologist realized this in 2006 when she discovered that they were much too small and the fingers were much too long. It is thought that these handprints may belong to lizards or perhaps baby crocodiles, but we still aren't really sure. It is definitely interesting and kind of fascinating to see all of these handprints on the walls of the cave, but it definitely carries a mystery that we may never know the answers to. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Magura Cave. This is a cave that is actually one of the largest in Bulgaria, and it is located in the northwest area of the country. This cave is filled with prehistoric paintings that date back somewhere between 8,000 and 4,000 years ago. Through the research into this cave, around 700 drawings have been found on the walls, and they depict a wide variety of scenes. These paintings were created using bat excrement. I mean, you're in a cave, you gotta make do with the resources you have. It's not like they could just walk over to Michael's and grab a brand new paint set. The paintings mostly depict different hunting scenes, as well as scenes of people dancing and celebrating. Honestly, I just wish for one day that I could understand the mind of an early human and understand what these paintings were meant to symbolize. Maybe it was meant to show something, and maybe they just liked art. Who knows for sure. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is a painting that comes all the way from at least 7,000 years ago. The painting is the main part of a mural that is located in Utah's Horseshoe Canyon. I know, it's not exactly a cave, but it's close, and it's a cool ancient painting. The entire mural is huge, as it is 300 feet long and features around 80 figures, and it was likely painted by ancient nomads. The techniques they used to create this image was by filling their mouths with red ochre tinted paint and then spraying it out onto the sandstone. This is all super cool to learn about, but here's the kind of creepy thing. No one knows why these paintings were created or what they represent. It is possible that maybe they just like to paint, but it is kind of crazy to think about what this figure could have meant to them. Was it part of a legend? Was it something they saw in real life? Was it a prediction of things to come? This is just one of those mysteries that unfortunately is buried with the people of the past, and we are just left to speculate exactly what this could be about. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Brazil Caves. This is an interesting cave painting because of the fact that it is widely debated when exactly it was created. The Serra de Capivara National Park is located in eastern Brazil, and it is the home to a bunch of different rock shelters that are decorated with incredible and elaborate cave paintings. This area includes scenes of rituals, hunting, trees, and animals, and some scientists believe that the oldest of the paintings dates back to at least 25,000 years ago. There are others who debate this because that would go against what we currently believe is the date of human settlement in the Americas, but hey, we weren't there, so who knows? In our number 5 spot today, we have the Vandalized cave painting. This painting is the oldest known painting in India, and it was found on the walls and ceiling of the Sittanavassal cave. It was originally believed that this painting was first created in the 1st century BCE. The paintings depict things like human figures, fish, elephants, birds, and different floral patterns. It is said that another artist ended up drawing over the original, which is an incredible shame and truly just rude. These paintings have have been severely vandalized, and a lot of the areas are in quite bad shape. There's something about things that are this old that makes me feel like they should just not be messed with at all. Not only because it's rude, but also because you just never know what kind of things they may hold. In our number 4 spot today we have the Droughts. Ancient drawings and writings were found covering the walls of the Dayu Cave, which is located in central China, and a lot of them detail different droughts and such that were experienced during the time of their writing. According to these drawings, people would come to the cave for either water or to pray for rain in times of drought. The writings reveal some of the horrors that the people of the time experienced while going through these periods of drought, including severe starvation, social instability, and conflict between government and citizens. While these cave writings show us a different time in history, researchers say that these stalagmites are formed by dripping water and they form rings, sort of like how trees do, and these rings can give us insights into different things. Based on the patterns of these rings, scientists were able to corroborate the things that the cave writings were saying, but they were also able to make a grim prediction for the future, which is unfortunately that this region may again see one of these catastrophic droughts, this time in the late 2030s. In our number 3 spot today we have Daydreaming. The paintings at the Lascaux Caves are perhaps some of the most famous ancient cave paintings of all time. They date back to some 17,000 years ago, and a lot of the art seen on the walls of the cave is art that depicts animals. About 900 of them, with 605 being pretty identifiable. There are cattle, bison, some wild cats, bears, birds, but there's one weird thing. There's no reindeer, and there were definitely reindeer in the area at the time, and there's evidence that reindeer meat was used for food, so why didn't they draw any? Well, our best theory as to why is that perhaps these drawings and paintings are depicting animals that the humans at the time were daydreaming of. The animals that were too fast or too strong, or that they didn't have effective weapons for. The drawings showing what life could be like if only these humans had more. Does that sound familiar to any of us? Because I think it definitely should. In our number 2 spot today we have Astronomy Masters. This is a point that doesn't discuss just one cave painting in particular, but it's something that has been seen throughout many that have been discovered, and even in some of the oldest ever found. What I'm talking about is the early humans and their complex understanding of astronomy. A common theme among ancient cave paintings is the depiction of animals, but what was previously thought of as just a drawing is now being realized that instead of just animal symbols, they may actually be used to represent star constellations in the night sky, and the paintings of them may be used to represent dates or mark events such as comet strikes. I mean, for a second, imagine being an early human having no concept of science and looking at the night sky with no light pollution. It totally makes sense why they would try and keep track of these things, not to mention how terrifying would a comet or meteor be when you have no idea what they are. Researchers have been able to find thousands of sites and symbols that span through thousands of years that seem to be using the same sophisticated level of astronomy. It is likely that this understanding is exactly why human migration and navigation of the open seas was possible. Their brilliance truly was crucial to how we evolved as humans. In our number 1 spot today we have Gaal. Gaal is a complex of caves and different rock shelters that are located in northwestern Somalia. These caves and rock shelters contain some of the earliest known art in the Horn of Africa, and really just on the continent in general, which is quite the feat considering the rich history of humans in Africa. I mean, it's where we evolved into humans after all. These prehistoric cave paintings show cows in ceremonial robes accompanied by humans. They show domesticated dogs and even a giraffe, which I personally love. These paintings are actually very well preserved, which is fantastic, and they retain clear outlines and vibrant colors, which really gives us a clearer look into the lives of the people who created them.
Starting us off from number 10 is the Anguished Man. Now the painter of this piece is unknown, but his painting is meant to be one of the most cursed paintings in the world. And after hearing how the painting came to be, you'll probably agree with that statement. Now, although the artist is unknown, his story isn't. It's said that he mixed his own blood into the painting, and soon after finishing it, he committed suicide. Somehow the painting got into the possession of Sean Robinson's grandmother, who stowed it away claiming it was evil. When she died and Sean inherited it, he soon backed her statement. After he hung up the painting in his bedroom, his whole family started hearing crying and whispering late at night and seeing the appearance experience of a shadowy figure. Now I'm assuming the crying or whispering or the figure of the artist himself wallowing in his sorrow for eternity. I don't know, I couldn't tell you the backstory even if I wanted to, but that's just my guess.
Okay, moving on to number 9 now, we have The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. It was painted in the final years of the 15th century by the legendary da Vinci after he was commissioned to paint a work on the wall of the Santa Maria del Grazie church in Milan. The scene depicts the last meal between Jesus and his 12 disciples as he tells them he knows one of them will betray him, leading to his crucifixion. Now, spoiler alert, it's Judas. Yeah, I'm sorry if anyone hadn't finished the Bible yet. Now, over the past 500 years since then, it has been loved, praised, damaged by accident, damaged on purpose, repaired properly, and then repaired badly. Even the church that housed it was bombed during World War II. Rough. Despite this, The Last Supper survived, and if you want to see how embedded it has become in popular culture, check out all the TV shows that have done a Last Supper picture. It goes on and on and on. It's just what Da Vinci had hoped for. Next up at number 8, we have The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer. Now, I'd love to tell you exactly what year this was painted, but the experts aren't sure. Somewhere around 1665 though, but they don't know who commissioned it. And that kind of mystery is actually what has driven a lot of the fascination with this painting over the years. Why is this 17th century European girl wearing exotic clothing and a Turkish turban? Is it Johannes' daughter? And as the title might suggest, what is the deal with that pearl earring that seems to draw people's eyes to it so much? These questions have led to books based on the painting and even a movie starring Scarlett Johansson. Wait a minute, Johansson Vermeer and Scarlett Johansson. Conspiracy theory, huh? Probably not at all. Alright, coming in at the number 7 spot now, we're gonna jump forward a few hundred years for The Son of Man by René Magritte. Painted in 1964, it's become one of the most iconic paintings of the late 20th century. It's actually a self-portrait where René wanted to explore the concept of humans wanting to see something that's hidden. Well, this is what he actually looks like if you really want to know what's behind the apple, but that's not the point. The point is, if you want to get really deep, you could say this painting shows why people love all the art we see in this video. It's about uncovering the hidden meanings, feelings, and emotions in our lives. Maybe I should be an art critic. Or maybe I should just get on with the video and move on to our number 6, and we've got The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. From surreal to surrealer now, Salvador Dali is well known for his mind and physics bending paintings, and this is perhaps the best example of it. Painted in 1931, it pretty much sums up what Dali and the whole surrealist movement were all about, breaking down our notions of what is fixed or changing, real or not, hard or soft, and for most of us, time seems like probably the most fixed thing in existence, always marching in one direction, never changing. Yet here Dali shows it melting in the hot sun like cheese. Dali would go on to create many more paintings over the years to come, but this was the one that actually made him famous at just 28 years old. It was the first the world really knew of him, and it helped set the tone for all the surreal paintings to come. Okay, coming in number 5 now, we have The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, by Vincent van Gogh, by Vincent van Goghy, and Vincent van Gogha. I feel like there's a million pronunciations out there, so yeah, just take your pick. Now, sometimes people overuse the word iconic a little bit too much, but I think this painting might deserve that word. Painted in June 1889 in France, it's thought to be one of the best, if not the best work done by the Dutch painter. Vincent painted it from the window of an insane asylum he had checked himself into the month before, and it was from this tortured artist that such an amazing piece came from. The focus is on the star-filled sky above the sleepy village below, but while that concept had been done before and since, nobody depicted it in quite the way Vincent did. Instead of the stars and the landscape being static, critics say the swirling nature of the painting made it come alive on the canvas. As with others on this list, it's since entered mainstream culture and become very famous. I even went to a Halloween party once with my girlfriend as Vincent and The Starry Night. She did all the painting. I'm terrible at painting. And moving on to number 4 now, we have American Gothic by Grant Wood. American Gothic is an American classic. Painted during the Great Depression in 1930, it came to be known as a symbol of American spirit and resistance. That no matter how tough things are, Americans will stay steadfast. Now, although the pair in this painting look like they're from the colonial era, they're actually based on real life models. Grant modeled the woman on his sister and the man on his dentist. Here they are standing with the actual painting, but that was pretty trippy. The original inspiration came from Grant seeing a Gothic window on what he thought was such a flimsy looking house in Iowa, and you can actually even visit that very house today and get a picture outside that house. Just make sure you look bloody miserable. Next up at number 3 now, we have Guernica by Pablo Picasso. This 1937 painting is perhaps the most well-known anti-war painting of all time. It depicts the bombing of Guernica that happened that year, where a reported 1,654 Basque civilians, mainly women and children, were killed during the Spanish Civil War when the Spanish fascists requested that the Nazis bomb the town. For every person to see this painting, there has been a different interpretation of it, but one thing that people tend to agree on is how it shows the absolute brutality of war. The broken up images, disembodied faces, flailing limbs, and colourless canvas really show how surrealism can reflect the harsh realities of the world, even the horrors of bombs and wars. Guernica helped bring worldwide attention to that war and served as a reminder for every war to come, even the Second World War that will begin just 2 years later. Coming in now at number 2, we have The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo. Now perhaps part of this painting is actually more famous than the painting itself. This part, the oh so close touching moment between God and humanity, is the central focus of this piece on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It was painted in about 1512 and is said to reflect the line in the Bible referring to God creating Adam and subsequently humanity itself. Now we're supposed to be seeing the moment before God touches humanity and brings it into existence. It's one of a number of paintings like this on the Sistine Chapel ceiling that took some 4 years to finish. A lot of the pictures on our list have been parodied in modern times, but perhaps The Creation of Adam might be the number 1 for that. But it's not the number 1 on our list, because that's what we've reached now, and that spot has to go to the one, the only Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. It was once described as the best known, the most visited, the most written about, the most sung about, and the most parodied work of art in the world. It was painted sometime between 1503 and 1506, and if you strip away all the fame behind it, it seems quite simple. A woman in front of a landscape background, but as with most art, there are layers to it. If you talk to an art expert, they will rave about how technically brilliant each brushstroke is and the harmony in the picture, but for the average person, like me or you, they are drawn to the questions behind it. Who is she, and why is she smiling? Well, they think it's Lisa del Giasondo, daughter of a wealthy silk merchant who commissioned Da Vinci to paint a piece for their new home. Not a bad painting for a new home, I'd take that. Well, little did he know it would eventually come to be the most famous painting probably of all time, to the point where you probably see more parodies of this painting than the actual painting itself. Honestly, I could do a whole video on just that one painting. 30 seconds really doesn't do it justice, and the same goes for all the paintings actually on this list.